Last month, I said that the vegetable garden was no more, and I meant it. But I'm not just scrapping it, I'm turning it into something better, my new guild garden. So as I start to lay the foundations of all of the planting and bringing it to life, here's what I think you need to plant to create your own fruit tree guild. Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome back. Have you ever heard of a fruit tree guild? Well, until a couple of years ago, I hadn't. Last year, I created 4 here in the centre of my vegetable garden. And then I thought, what if I created a whole garden full of fruit tree guilds that would be really abundant with not just edibles, but also ornamentals? It would be so beautiful. So that's what I'm creating this year, my guild garden. In this episode, and in next month's episode, I'm going to cover the 6 main plant groups that make up a successful fruit tree guild. Really just a quick overview so that you can start getting to grips with the concept. If you're not sure what a fruit tree guild is and why I think they are amazing, check out my videos up here that'll explain everything to you. It wouldn't be much of a fruit tree guild, or a guild garden particularly, without all of these. The fruit trees, I've got 16 of them here in the garden now, and I'm hoping that they're going to be really beautiful and productive, particularly so when they're supported by the plants in each guild, and they're going to add a lovely visual structure and form. But when it comes to picking trees, it's worth picking well. You can pretty much pick whatever you want, that's entirely up to you, but I do think there are some real things that you need to consider. Take this end of the guild garden and you can see quite how many fruit trees I put in. For starters, the main thing that I think you need to consider is size. Now, I'm going really quite high density planting here, and I'm hoping that it's going to work. If it doesn't, I might need to remove a few trees in the future. I really hope I don't need to. But because of that, I've opted for really small trees. Every single one of these has been picked because it's growing on a dwarfing rootstock that is going to keep it no larger than about 5 foot tall and about the same across. Plus, I can prune them to keep them under control. So do take time to work out what you want, and particularly the space that you have, because that is all important. Also, really observe, record and think about your climate and your garden's aspect. There is no point in trying to grow a heat-loving fruit tree that wants shelter, for example, on the side of a windswept Scottish Highland mountain. That's just not going to work. For example, in my garden here, it runs due north-south, but more importantly than that, it can be a little bit of a frost pocket and at times can be a bit windswept. So I've chosen trees that I know will grow well in Ireland, so they're suitable for the climate, but also they're tough varieties of those, so that I know they should perform as well as I can possibly hope. Final thing, and it's more of a tip than a necessary thing, is that bare root fruit trees are often way less expensive than buying pot-grown ones. Apart from this and 3 other pear trees here, every other tree here in the guild garden was bought as a bare root tree. My experience as well is that, as well as being cheaper, so you can buy more of them or you can save money, is that they actually settle into the ground and into the garden quicker, and they really get established better. I'm going to get going by lifting this comfrey because I want to divide it and use the smaller plants all the way throughout the guild garden, because comfrey is a mega powerhouse of a plant. Oh, you can hear it there. And it's part of the first group of 6 that I want to talk about, accumulators. Okay, so accumulator plants are kind of magic because they enhance the overall health and fertility of the guild. That's why I have mine planted really nice and close to the apple tree here. They're able to accumulate and make available important nutrients and minerals that are beneficial to the soil, and they do this all by themselves. So those beneficial nutrients aren't just available for the fruit tree to ensure its success, but for the plants around it, and you can see it really starts to build the quality of the soil and the quality of the plants and the tree. The roots of these plants run way down deep into the soil and can access nutrients and then bring them up to the surface. These essential elements are absorbed by the plant itself, and they are stored in their leaves, their stems and their roots. Then, as the accumulator plant dies at the end of the year, as it sheds its leaves, or if its leaves have been turned by us into stinky, comfrey tea, yuck, all of those really good nutrients are delivered back into the soil and they're easily accessible by other plants. That way, it powers the plants and the tree and everything nearby. Comfrey can get really quite big as a plant, so be careful which you choose. It's certainly going to clump up and get bigger. Get the wrong one and comfrey can seriously spread. It'll go everywhere. But if you look out for this specific one, which is called Bocking 14, it doesn't self-seed. It will clump up, so you can divide it like I'm just about to, but it's not going to run absolutely crazy through your garden, and you're not going to be contacting me in the future telling me off for recommending a plant that basically took over your garden. You might notice when I start talking about all of these different plant groups and the different categories that they often seem to tick more than one box. Like, for instance, a plant that's going to suppress weeds might also accumulate nutrients, or it might attract beneficial insects. That's a really good thing. It shows just how versatile plants can be, and actually it makes picking them for your garden even easier because it way expands the choices that you have. Next up, let's talk about suppressors. Something like this rhubarb. Their main job within a guild is to manage weed growth, conserve soil moisture and maintain a cool soil temperature. That's going to help reduce unwanted plant competition in the form of weeds, and it also creates a more hospitable environment for the fruit trees and also a lot of the other companion plants that are planted in the guild. Suppressor plants physically just stop weeds from getting their way. They grow really densely, or they might have really big leaves like this, just like this rhubarb, or they might spread really quickly, covering the ground and limiting the light and sheer growing space available for weeds. That way they can choke out the weeds or even completely stop the weed seeds from germinating in the first place. This dense growth also acts like a living shade, covering the soil, helping to reduce moisture loss through evaporation, which is really handy in the summertime. Even somewhere like Ireland, that is an issue. By covering the soil, suppressor plants help to keep the soil cool, which is particularly loved by trees and as well as the other plants that are going to be planted in the guild. This has to be one of my favourites, which I just mentioned, rhubarb, and it's just emerging from its winter sleep. As it grows, it's going to create really big leaves, and it's going to cover quite a bit of the soil in each of these beds. I was amazed last year at quite how effective this was. Really, nothing grew underneath the rhubarb canopy. So more rhubarb is going to be going in throughout the guild garden here. Right, the last group of plants for this episode are repellent plants. And I think we're all used to repellent plants from the whole companion planting concept, planting marigolds or basil next to tomatoes. And I think we're also used to them generally being flowers, but even the plants themselves can work really well. Repellent plants get added to serve as a natural pest control mechanism within a fruit tree guild, leveraging, generally their scent to deter harmful insects and animals from damaging not only the fruit trees or the companion plants, but also any other crops that you might have nearby. This way, you're including a really good protective barrier all the way through the guild without the need for chemicals. The plants do it for you. Like here, I've already got chives growing, and I have for the last few years. They're really tasty. They look lovely, particularly in June with their purple flowers. And like other members of the allium family, they release that distinctive oniony aroma that many pests just find totally off-putting. But I'm adding more allium family members over and above the chives. I've got garlic, shallot and onion sets planted everywhere through the garden because they're going to be really good repellents, but they're also going to be yummy crops. Plus, I just adore ornamental alliums of almost every kind, so I have planted or I have potted on hundreds of pots of bulbs. These are going to be dotted everywhere, and I mean everywhere through the guild, with their beautiful little pom-pom flowers later. I just can't wait. It's going to be great. They're going to ward off loads of pests, I hope, and they're going to look beautiful at the same time. Finally, just remember that your plant choices don't have to match mine. What I've tried to do is provide you with one really clear example for each group. So an accumulator plant would be comfrey, a suppressor plant would be rhubarb, and repellent plants would be onions. But at the same time, do a little bit of research, have a look, and find plants that you think will tick those boxes. Then find the plants that you actually want to grow, whether it's because you like the look of them, whether you think they're going to benefit your garden, or whether you actually just want to eat them, and then introduce those in and make your own tapestry of really beautiful plants in your own fruit tree guilds. Changing my whole vegetable garden across to a garden full of fruit tree guilds is very much an experiment, but I think it has the potential to become something properly special. It's time for me to do some serious planting over the next few weeks, and next month we're going to cover the final 3 plant groups that you need to make your own successful fruit tree guilds. And until next time, see you later.